Soulpack, Jackal, and Sinric, all patrons of the Knights of Last Call, all here for a game of the One Ring, second edition. So again, thank you, gentlemen, for your patronage, and I'm excited to play this game with you. So thank you not only for being patron, but thank you for being a player. I'm excited to get this game underway.
Super
please.
Excited.
So, real quick, again, it's a session 0. So we're going to do a couple of things. Number one is, is everyone reasonably proficient with Foundry? I'm okay. All right. Well, if you do have any questions about Foundry, ask someone else, because I don't really know either. But we could try to figure it out. Number two, and it's totally fine if the answer is a little bit or a lot. How, I'll go around, Gull, we'll start with you. How much do you know these rules of this game?
Ooh, probably 1 or 2 out of 5. Like I've read the books, but I haven't actioned it all, like multiple read-throughs.
Okay, that's good. Goblins?
The same. Read the book, basically. Yep.
Okay. Sin?
Probably like 3 or 4.
Okay, cool. Logan?
I'm just amazed that having read the book is only a 1 or 2.
One.
If I could get my players to read the book, that's crazy. Okay.
Well, isn't that kind of the standard? Is that you're expected 0 as a player? Like you never know the rules.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess I've watched your review content, and I own the books. So.
Perfect. And Jackal?
Yeah, likewise. Have read, have like sort of run the old starter set.
Oh, okay.
It was with my not TTRPG friends, and we were inebriated. So,
As you do, yeah.
Yeah, like you do.
Classic.
And I've also been jumping into your first look stream.
Cool. All right, perfect. Well, in that case, I will occasionally, touch on and highlight certain options of the rules. As many of you know, it's not just about playing the game, right? It's also about like exploring the game, right, as a system as well, and understanding what the system cares about, and does the system have mechanics that influence that, and so on and so forth down the line. That being said, real quick, again, this is not like a complete anonymous stream, but or anonymous group. In terms of like lines, veils, palettes, and all the like. So this is Tolkien. So, anything that would be in Lord of the Rings will be in this game. Anything that wasn't probably won't. So, yes, like orcs will do bad things. Are we going to focus on like brutal depictions of rape and murder and stuff like that? No, because, again, Tolkien didn't, right? So think basically the movie content in terms of PG-13, in terms of some elements, components of violence, but in terms of pretty much everything else, overt depictions of horror, sex, anything like that, that's all going to be either completely missing or, swept under the rug. But that being said, one of the literal mechanics of this game is dread, in which you can acquire shadow. And so, seeing orc work is one of the terms that they use. So, you might come across a village and find that its inhabitants have been killed. But as fantasy TTRPG players, it's kind of within the, that's just an average day at the office, right? So, but again, if anybody has any express concerns about certain elements, you're like, I'm really offended by, I don't know, magic items or something. Let me know. And I will try.
I don't want telephone snowboards and stuff. If we don't get that, I'm okay.
Oh, so no, you know what? Actually, though, that's an important thing. Again, it goes without saying, but I am not. It might strike you as crazy, but I am not a purist. Okay, so obviously, I enjoy the world of the Lord of the Rings and the world that Tolkien built, but we're playing, so fuck Tolkien, right? So. Anything that he wrote or that he's cut, this, again, I'm not saying it will, but it could totally end up with you guys, I don't know, murder hoboing Bilbo Baggins and taking the One Ring. Like, it's just
oh my God.
Now, I'm not saying that you should do that. I'm just saying that.
That sounds like a good campaign setting. Let's.
I don't have that kind of like, but that's not what happened in the books. I don't care, right? Like, everything that happened from the dawn of Arda, through the first age and the sinking of Beleriand, all that's true. until the spring of 2965 of the Third Age, in which case it is now your guys' story and nothing else matters. That being said, there are tonal considerations to this game. You are not a player character. You are a player hero. So the game literally has a mechanic called misdeeds. If you do asshole things, you will acquire shadow. If you acquire enough shadow, your character will lose themselves to the shadow. If you are at max shadow at the end of a session and you haven't figured out a way to deal with it, your character is forced to retire. So, if you do, so in other words, I guess I could say, if for whatever reason you feel like your character is going down this route of maybe, the ends justify the means and, whatever, that's okay. The game has a system to sort of embrace that, but realize that will cause story consequences. I mean, clearly, right? I mean, Boromir is a tragic character and definitely a huge part of the Lord of the Rings. Same thing with Denethor, right? And there's a lot of characters like that. So that's not out of the scope of the game. That being said, we are not going to be running up orc swords, to Shoryuken anime punch people in the face. That's just not the style of the game. But
Right.
I vote we immediately burgle Bilbo Baggins, and then one for one, I completely lack story of the Lord of the Rings.
Right. Yes. I'm Bordo Baggins. But anyways, so that's
A couple
So-
questions
yes.
that tie between these two topics of canonicism and veil. If two topics that I think Tolkien is sometimes criticized for in modern are race and gender. And if we see a woman in the game, should we assume she can't fight? And if we see a colored person, should we assume they've been seduced by Sauron already?
Yeah, great question. So it is the case, right, that men of the South, right, Haradrim and the like, Easterlings, who tend to be more of of darker hued skin, are typically considered to be under the sway of the shadow, and so that is still going to be the case here. However, that isn't to say that again, speaking to the nature of this game. So I will say this about racial determinism. A enemy, a creature of Sauron will have a score called hate, and you will know this. And it is basically their version of hope. They have hate, and they can spend hate to get bonuses, stuff like that. A creature with hate, trolls, orcs, wraiths, barrow rights, yada yada yada, balrogs. They are essentially irredeemably evil. Now, that isn't to say that killing them, in fact, I would even go so far as to say killing them is considered a good act, right? Anybody else, even evil men, does not have a hate score. They have what's called resolve. And potentially killing them could earn you shadow points and could earn you misdeeds. So just because they are under the sway of Sauron does not necessarily mean that they are irredeemably evil in the same way that, say, an orc or troll is. And you should probably take that into consideration as, again, killing them or, whatever situation you're in could result in you acquiring misdeeds. Now, the game is pretty overt with this because you'll know if a creature has a hate score or a resolve score. So that's that. Secondly, for women, I would say that you should generically assume that most people can't fight. But as far as player heroes go, there is no gender determinism in the mechanics of the game. So there's no gender determinism in my game. And while it may be the case that obviously, there's not really any female members of the Fellowship. Clearly, there are characters like Eowyn and Arwen and stuff like that who are Galadriel, etc., who are more than capable of holding their own. So, while certain genetic norms might be the case, when it comes to player heroes, anything goes. Or important NPCs.
Perfect.
On the topic of the evil men stuff, I would assume if it's like self-defense or we're stopping them from doing something, we don't necessarily have to worry about getting.
Yes, anytime you would acquire misdeed points, I would have to tell you. I can't just gotcha with it. That being said, you're exactly right. So, if you're engaging them in open battle, they're attacking you. It's war. It's they're assaulting your city. You fight back to the defense. Yes. On the other hand, like if you, I don't know, ambush them and kill them to a man, they're not, that's not necessarily a good thing, right? It even goes so far as to determine their behavior. Creatures with a hate score they might flee in cowardice or panic, but they will never surrender. They will never beg for mercy. It kind of goes both ways. Whereas a creature with resolve might be all right, you got us. And if you're like, we don't have time for this, then I'll be like, okay, that's going to be some misdeed points. So,
Okay.
All right. So real quick before we begin, you guys have your character sheets available to you. So the character creation process kind of follows a couple different steps. But before we get into that, I just brought up Goldcat's character sheet for the people at home to see. So the most important aspect of your character is going to be your culture. Not only is that your race, but it's also, or your species, I suppose, but it's also, where you're from. And that has a huge impact on your starting skills. And as well as what cultural virtues are available to you. Very much like a man from the Dale, a barding, is going to be very different than a man from Bree, or say a Dunedain Ranger of the North, who is not he's a man, but he's not technically a man, whatever. In the core game, unless there's really a reason somebody wants to not play something, we have Hobbits of the Shire, we have Dwarves of Durin's Folk, aka the Longbeards, we have Rangers of the North, aka the Dunedain, we have Elves of Linden, we have Men of Bree, Bardings, and so if you if you have any questions about those, we can talk about through those. But generally speaking, there's a good set of lists. Now, a couple of things to note, because these are consequences. Again, I like to let players know that there are consequences for things. Mechanically, roughly, they're all pretty much the same, but mechanically, elves and rangers are kind of stronger than the other cultures, which makes sense. They're ancient superpowered creatures. However, and this is one of the reasons why I made this game to be a 12-session game, they do have a downside. And the downside is that they are more susceptible and or harder to recover their resources like hope or to remove shadow. Elves, the idea is that the burden of the shadow literally weighs on them. And in the Valar are basically saying, you need to stop all that and just come home. So it's harder for them to recover shadow. So if you're playing a one-shot of the One Ring, you should absolutely be an elf or a ranger, because those long-term elements of play will never affect you, right? You'll just be like, oh my God, I'm a superhero. So that's one aspect, about them. Secondly, when you are adventuring, there is a score, which is called the Eye Awareness. Okay. And it's kind of a vague, generic, how much are the forces of evil aware of your actions? And it both represents Sauron or his forces or his whatever actively looking for you, but also this idea of the creeping dread of shadow. And that as you become, as sort of a force of good, this universal force of evil sort of hones in on you. Well, if you have rangers and elves in your party, that starts higher. Okay. Quite literally, Sauron's like, oh, a bunch of elves are out and about. What's with that? That's not normal. Whereas a bunch of hobbits literally, I think, start at 0, right? Nobody thinks twice about hobbits roaming the lands. So there are some consequences to choosing, quote unquote, those more powerful callings. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't call them. They're very cool. And they definitely have a point to play, but it is one of those things that might not be apparent at first. But culture is going to be very important in determining your stats, your skills, as well as what cultural virtues are available to you. It also determines your starting standard of living. So are you poor, frugal, rich, wealthy? And then you'll pick your calling. Now, this is your class, and it actually matters not a lot. It doesn't really do a whole lot in this game. It's going to let you pick one skill from a list and make it favored, which basically means that you get to roll with advantage on the D12 when you roll that skill. It also will determine one of your what's called your distinctive features. And the reason why a distinctive feature is important is because if you can role play and indicate how, and I mean that in the generic sense, not in the like, I'm role playing. If you could describe how your distinctive feature is assisting you or aiding you or makes a difference in this check, when you spend a hope point to gain a bonus d6, you instead gain 2 bonus d6s. So, but basically, other than that, your class doesn't really do a whole lot. Okay. So that's like kind of like the generic thing. We can get, more into specifics as we do stuff. But that being said, you guys can now, I know some of you had already expressed some ideas and concerns, but now you guys have this unenviable task of figuring out who's going to be what and what are you going to do, and who's going to be and who. Now this isn't D&D. You know what? I need to cover everything. That being said, there are 3. As you look at your character sheet, there are three areas that to be noted of, which is there are 3 conflict scenes. There is combat, journeys, and councils. Journeys are walking, and it goes without saying, but the travel skill is very important to traveling, not just for the person who is leading the group, but for everybody, because travel is going to determine how much fatigue you take upon a journey. Now, having a good travel score is basically important for everybody, but especially it's nice to have at least somebody who can hopefully kind of get you and lead you along in the wilderness. So that's travel. While you are traveling, you will have one person at least assigned to one of 3 roles, which is going to be your hunter, your lookout, and your scout. And that's where awareness, hunting, and scan come in. So again, not a bad idea to have a good idea. Now, again, you don't have to be like, I'm the hunter for all time, and that's the end of the story. But it can be helpful. And then for combat, well, now combat doesn't happen in the One Ring. If it did, you'd be pretty fucked. If we think about, Fellowship of the Ring, right? They get into, as a fellowship, they get into a fight in Moria and then a fight at Amonhet. And that's it. Typically the game, it all depends on your actions, of course. If you guys say, we're going in, you're going in. But the game usually expects that you might see a combat once a session, once every other session. It's really determined on your pace of play. But it is not D&D or Pathfinder 2 in terms of that kind of combat. That being said, combat will kill you. So it can be useful to have people that are good at combat as well. If you aren't good at combat, there are still plenty of things that you can do in combat, because each stance in combat can give you additional options. Like if your character is in the front, and you suck at combat, but you're really good at the awe skill, right? You can basically intimidate and debuff the enemies with your, fearsome presence. If you are in the middle, you can rally your allies and give them bonuses. So sometimes you might not have really good, ranks in axes or swords or bows, but you can still aid the group that way. And then lastly, our councils. Talkie time. So there's a social encounter system in this game. A variety of skills can be used in these councils, but particularly that top row of awe, enhearten, and persuade come up a lot. And in fact, the way that the skills are organized is by row. That first skill, or that first row, awe, enhearten, and persuade, basically has to do with social interaction. The second row, athletics, travel, and stealth, has to do with movement. The third, awareness, insight, and scan, has to do with your perceptions and gaining information. Hunting, healing, and exploring has to do with, I think, with like resources or interaction with the environment. Song, courtesy, and riddle is literally called the bonus, and then craft, battle, and lore has to do with knowledge. Or like song, courtesy, and riddle has to do, it's called custom. I guess I couldn't come up with a category, but anyways, so all that stuff, it can be useful as a player, to maybe potentially try to have something from each row, because then you might be able to do something, in every encounter. So, all right. Anybody dying to be something?
I was planning on basically random rolling everything that I can and see what comes up.
Yes. So you have an option to roll your stat array once you pick a culture, or you can pick it. I'm okay with you guys picking it for Lord of the Rings because the arrays that are presented are fairly focused. Like it is not possible to be for example, like a Hobbit and have a bad heart score.
7-strength Hobbit.
Yes, right. There is no 7-strength Hobbit, right? So it's not like it's a point buy. I think the highest strength you can have is a 4. So they're all balanced in that way. But because I realized, I was like, oh, okay, it's not like, oh, there's one Hobbit that has a 7 strength and one Hobbit that has a 3 strength. No, like if you're a Hobbit, you're gonna have a low strength. So yeah, I will shut up, and if you guys have questions, please ask away.
Kind of for the group, maybe you guys can help me. I'm having a hard time reconciling a Hobbit even being with us, just because like how much of an anomaly it was like pounded into our head for 4 books. What do you guys think? Like, would we having a Hobbit be like done before?
I think if you want to roll a Hobbit, or if you random roll a Hobbit, then the job is to find an excuse for the Hobbit to be here. It isn't anomalous for them to go for a cheeky wander. It's not unheard of for them to go for a cheeky wander. Maybe it's a little bit anomalous.
I enjoyed Bilbo's stories and wanted your own, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, Cynric. So I think there's a couple of things. So number one, remember there are, I think amongst anybody, right? Even like amongst the dwarf, right? A respectable dwarf stays home and mines and crafts, like they don't go out and, wander, in that respect. Elves, by definition, are sort of being, cheeky because they should have gone on a boat and gone to Valinor. I will say, though, that the book does say, but since the return of Mr. Bilbo Baggins from his adventures with a group of dwarves and traveling wizards, something has changed. More stories about remote lands, dark woods, giants, elves, and forgotten halls beneath the earth have started to circulate among hobbits of a more adventurous sort. And with every passing year, another 1 or 2 discreetly disappear to go off and have adventures. So I really think that so I think this is kind of like I think Bilbo's adventures were about 15, 20 years ago. So you kind of have this generation of hobbits who grew up with, the stories of Bilbo Baggins, and now he's rich and wealthy, and, he fought dragons, and, barrel rider, and, a luck wearer, and all that other stuff. So I think that is the kind of a change that they made in sort of the nature of the game.
Yeah, I had been like leaning towards Scholar. Obviously, if anybody else wants to play, I'm not like locked into anything or whatever. But when I was going through the different callings, I was like, maybe a Hobbit Scholar would have been very much so inspired by Bilbo, right? So, big on the stories and the telling of stories, stuff like that. What do y'all want?
I think I'm leaning towards playing a human culture. I'm not kind of feeling either dwarf or elf or hobbit. So either a barding or a
So when it comes to the human cultures, you basically have 2 choices, right? So the bardings, right, obviously come from over the Misty Mountains, right? They come from Rovanian, they come from the area of Wilderland. So they're kind of like, I don't want to say they're like foreign, but they're kind of, this, and they're wealthy. They're one of the wealthier cultures, cause they got all that gold. And so there's kind of this, they're kind of almost here on like, what we would call it, like Rumspringa, which is like, where like the Amish people go and have an adventure, it's kind of like they're almost, Eriador to them is almost like an untamed land, like I'm here for, my back home, we killed our dragon. We had our Battle of the 5 Armies, and it's kind of boring, and I've got all this money, and I want to go and be an adventurer. I'm going to go to this shithole wasteland called Arianor and have it. And meanwhile, the men of Bree are like, but we live here,
Literally, Barding's having a girl on the gap here.
Yeah,
go on the gap here and go somewhere that it's totally different.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the cultural difference from that. The Bardings are a bit more noble bearing, and they come from these, lines of great northern kings. Whereas the men of Bree are kind of plucky and just hard scrabble people, barely eking out an existence in this kind of once wonderful but now wasted world, right?
Yes,
Somebody-
I've been thinking of barding because they have, at least in the book, the One Ring book, they have very Norwegian names. So I kind
There
of
you go.
There you go. Yes, and again, I think the inspiration from Tolkien for bardings was very Scandinavian coded. So
that's my leaning at the moment.
Cole, do you want to just roll? And then we
Let's
eliminate variables.
I'm really hoping not to have an elf, but if I do get an elf, I am 100% calling him Gulda Galad.
so what is this going to be then? A D6?
Yeah. Let's see what they're...
Please let it be elf.
Oh, also, I should note that in Foundry, I do have the Dice So Nice module, and if you go into dwarves, elves, hobbit, yep.
All right, page 38. Let's go.
I was going to say, if you go into your settings in Foundry by clicking on the gear, and you go to your configure settings, which should be the top option with the gears, and you go on the left side, you'll see Dice So Nice. There is a 3D dice setting option at the top, and in about halfway down there's a dice presets, and one of the options is the One Ring dice. So you can actually change your dice to the One Ring dice. And then you can pick a theme for your dice as well. There's different colors, but the Free Folk is the default white dice that come with the box sets. So,
Slightly, get me rolling Hobbit of the Shire is hilarious one point because I am literally from the West Country, which is the Shire. My native accent is Samwise Gamgee. Like I grew up with people who spoke exactly
Everyone's
like that.
just gonna
So-
yeah, right. Yeah. So yes, Goblin Andrew was like, I want to do something different. I'm going to be a Northman.
I've accidentally rolled up me. Just a short version.
Gulbo Baggins. But okay, cool. So we've got a Hobbit. And again, so if anybody, I don't think if you need a book or PDF, let me know. But because again, unfortunately, Foundry, due to legal reasons, doesn't have all the stuff. But your culture is something that you just have to kind of type in on your character sheet. There's nothing like you can drag onto your sheet like in some cool Foundry stuff. Unfortunately, you don't have that. All right. Do you want to roll your attributes array as well?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see.
Just so we can see what kind of hobbit you are.
Yeah, let's see what comes up. Okay, it's another D6. Da-da-da.
4, 5, 5.
Ooh.
Strength
Okay.
4.
The world
heart 5,
is your
wits
oyster.
5.
Yeah, you kind of have a very balanced array.
4, 5, 5. Love it.
So this is a good time also to talk about, as you guys start making character choices. This is more of a personal decision. But you have 3 scores, right? Strength, heart, and wits. And obviously your score will determine the TN that you need to roll, which is going to be D12 plus some number of D6s. And you can see that each stat, strength, heart, and wits, has a skill group associated with 6 skills. However, a couple other things. Combat skills, even bow, use strength. So all the combat skills use your strength TN. Axes, swords, spears, bows, the whole 9 yards. Cool. However, you also have your heroic stature. You have 2 stats called Valor and Wisdom. These are, for lack of a better word, your levels in this game. Valor represents your courage, your bearing, your noblesse, your regalness, and quite frankly, just your your kind of your legend, your reputation. As valor increases, which you will get through the accumulation of adventure points, experience points, the cultures and the people that support you will basically give you cool items. So valor increasing will give you cool new items. However, valor is also used to resist dread. There are several ways that your character will accumulate shadow: dread, greed, and sorcery. Dread is by far the most common. Dread uses your valor score as the bonus of D6s and tests against your heart rating. So a character with a good heart score is also going to be less susceptible to the ravages of dread. And again, as I cannot stress this enough, the sources of shadow are many, but dread is the most common. Wisdom obviously represents not just your intelligence, right? But in D&D terms, also your wisdom, right? The ability to tell right from wrong, to have foresight, to make decisions that, reflect, but also to have self-control and the ability to sort of master your own impulses. Wisdom, as you gain levels in wisdom, will grant you new virtues. These are going to either be from your culture or from your thing. Think of them as feats. However, wisdom is also used to resist greed and the effects of sorcery. However, those test against your wits score. So again, a character with high wits, or good wisdom, or both, is going to be less susceptible to gaining shadow from greed or from the effects of sorcery. The fourth type of shadow that we talked about earlier, misdeeds, there is no test. If I tell you you're going to gain them, again, I will always tell you in advance of your action. But if you make that decision, you gain the shadow, there's no test to result in, right?
You done fucked up.
Well, yeah, but you have to understand, like, for example, let's say there's a group of people in a village and they're going to be killed and, they don't believe you. Would you lie to them to save their lives? And you say, yes. And I say, okay, that's a misdeed. You're going to gain shadow points from lying to these good people. And you say, it's worth it because I want to save their lives. And it's like, okay. So like sometimes, it's about making tough choices. It's not always, hey, there's a bunch of children. Do you murder them? And you're like,
I don't know. Let me flip a coin for both of us.
There's a stranger on the road. Do you waylay him and steal all of his possessions?
I don't know. It's an old lady. It's probably a hag. Then yes.
Right. So, sometimes you are going to be put into a situation where, you're like, dang, this is tough. And one of the ideas that I think espouses Tolkien's work and also reflects his own, time in the war is that nobody goes into war and comes out unscathed, right? Like, you shouldn't view your characters as these ultimate paragons of hey, yeah, I'm the master hero and I have zero shadow and I never did anything bad ever, right? Part of the idea, even in the movie, right, is that great heroes like Boromir fall, Denethor falls, and Frodo, despite winning, right, basically loses. I mean, he can't deal with the weight that is on his soul. And I think everybody carries those sort of scars. So that's all, one of the themes that is mechanically represented by these mechanics. So, all right, I'll shut up.
Jason, are you more or less interested in playing a Hobbit now that we have at least one other?
I mean, probably a little less, but it's not like it wouldn't be the end of the world.
No? Okay.
Merry and Peregrine. Let's bumblefuck our way through this adventure.
Exactly. We could be buddies. You have the least heart that a hobbit can get, so if I played a super heart hobbit, that might be fun too.
Oh my god, I do. I thought 5 was quite good, but there you are.
You're swole though. That's cool.
Yeah. Absolute gains.
You're bitter and cynical for a hobbit.
Yeah.
Do you want to roll your calling now?
I was going to do the sort of the culture skills and stuff, but I definitely can.
You're literally rolling everything. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just.
Well, he's first, and we can just fill around him. It's fine.
Yeah. That's good.
I don't seem to be able to update my my skills.
Oh, okay. So one of the things that they use in this game is if you want to like change something that you don't want to accidentally change it, you have to hold Alt.
Got it. Easy peasy.
Also, if you hover over something on your mouse and let it go, you'll see a pop-up hint that says press Alt plus click and Shift Alt plus click to remove. So
Love it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All right, let's have a look at culture then. Oh, sorry, the calling.
Warden.
ooh, a warden.
Oh,
right, well-
Hobbit Order. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, at least you have a high strength. So, maybe you were like a sheriff's deputy or a bounder, right? That's the term that they use. It's kind of cool.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right.
And I'll roll some names as well. If you fully random it.
Who's picking next?
Sinric, have you said anything about what you wanted to do?
I was leaning toward dwarf.
Sick.
Cool. Dwarves are sweet.
They are cool. That means we either won't have elves or rangers, which I'm very surprised by. I thought
The ranger was like my second option, I think, when I was looking at stuff.
You guys are
I don't have a dwarf, so
you guys are the low key party.
I'm actually not surprised because I kind of figured with, a group of KOC members that we would try to pick like the hardest, like the least capable party possible.
I can guarantee you if this was a shorter session, I'd be elf all the way. Hour game the shit out of this.
I'm glad we have somebody who
Right.
we can actually rely on.
Right. Again, they are powerful, but as I said, when you're playing a ranger, and then everyone else is like, "Oh, I've got all my hope comes back. Oh, this is great. I'm having so much fun." And the ranger's like, "You get back 3," and you're like, "Oh man, that's not as cool." So there is that downside as well.
Which array are you selecting / rolling for Mr. Dwarf or Mrs. Dwarf? I'm not here.
Mr. Dwarf. I'm probably just gonna pick the 4, the one that's 4.
Oh, the 644.
Yeah.
Cool. And did you have a calling in mind?
I was leaning toward treasure hunter.
Yeah.
Sick. Greedy dwarves. Yeah.
Greedy dwarves. Yeah. Dragon. Their shadow path is literally dragon sickness. It's very,
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hell yeah, that's great.
then I'll choose an elf.
Oh,
All right. Ooh, all right. So,
And I don't know anything else about my character yet.
Cool.
As a foil, I will have a severed hand.
Nice.
Oh,
Are
hell
you
yeah.
carrying around a severed hand, or are you missing a hand?
Maybe both. Could have it on me.
You're just wearing your missing hand as a necklace. Like,
No, I believe I'll be one short. So
okay.
It is true that elves do recover magically from most wounds, but they do not recover from, like losing a limb automatically.
all right. Then the arrays. Oh, I see it here. I'll roll a d6 as well. Seems cool.
They do give you that option.
6 strength, 2 heart, and 6 wits. I've only got one hand in the race, so I've just got 2 heart.
Wait, did you roll a 4 or a 6?
Thought sorry, I was looking at Goldcat's roll. So yeah,
Yeah.
I rolled a 4. 4, 4,
Yeah.
6 again. Yep.
4, 4, 6. Yeah, another balance roll.
We're all just a balance party.
Although I will say I don't think anybody has a really great strength score yet, so there is that.
I mean, I've got
The dwarf
6.
has 6, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, does the dwarf have 6? Okay.
Yeah. I will be relatively decent at combat.
Yeah. Well, yeah, dwarves have, so again, speaking about the way that this game works, your hit points in this game are your stamina or your endurance. And obviously if they get to 0, your character can suffer a wound and can go down. Not good. However, if your endurance score goes below your character's fatigue, they become weary. And you acquire fatigue mostly through journeying, and it really doesn't go away until you go back to not just to rest, but to like, spend a month recovering in Rivendell or at the Inn of the Prancing Pony. And so, when you're weary, all of your D6s, the 1s, 2s, and 3s become 0s. However, your equipment, your weapons and your armor add permanently to your fatigue. It's called load. So wearing heavy armor in many instances will like automatically make your character weary or damn near close to it. Dwarves' advantage is they half the load of their, helms and, armor. So in some ways, like dwarves are kind of the only people that can wear armor. I mean, like everybody can, it's just much more likely to make you weary. So like, even if you can wear armor, you may not choose there's a reason to choose not to, is what I'm trying to say. Armor does not work like armor class as it does in D&D. You instead have a parry rating, which determines how hard it is for enemies to hit you. What armor does is if your character takes a piercing blow, which basically means anytime an enemy or you rolls either a 10 or a Gandalf rune. So basically 2 out of the D12. So 1 in 6. 1 in 6 rolls is basically a critical hit. And if it hits you and you fail that roll, you're instantly basically taken out. So yeah, regardless of your endurance. So you could literally be at full hit points, take a piercing blow and fail and be wounded and potentially be out of the combat. So, that's when armor comes in. Armor is good for preventing that from happening. So you don't need armor to be a good fighter. And it's not going to be like, in fact, actually, I think hobbits, I think they have wits. Like a dwarf has, their parry rating is wits plus 10. So whatever your wit score is, let's say it's 4, then your parry score is 14. Hobbits are wits plus 12. And so are elves. So like in that way, they are actually more defensive in terms of harder to hit than say a dwarf.
Small boy. That's what I am. The smallest.
I might go like the unwilling captain.
Ooh, okay.
If you guys want.
Sure.
I am here to lead you, savages.
Yes.
Cool. Captain's cool.
What array are you gonna choose? Goblins.
Maybe 5, 6, 3. Number 3 on my barding. Try to have a high heart.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and also obviously every array has its advantages. Your strength is going to determine your max endurance, aka how many hit points you have. Your heart is going to determine your hope, which is how many, hope is used as your currency in this game to gain bonus D6s to aid other people. If you want to help somebody else, you got to give them hope. Also, if your hope score becomes equal to or lower than your shadow score, your character becomes miserable. Normally, on the D12, if you roll an Eye of Sauron symbol, it just counts as a 0. So you're probably going to fail anyways. But if you have a bunch of D6s or, your TN is only 13 or 14, you could still probably succeed even on a roll of a 0. But fundamentally, it's just a 0. It sucks, but it's a 0. But if your character is miserable, which means that your shadow score is higher than your current hope, not your max hope, your current hope. If your shadow score is higher than your current hope and you're miserable, the Eye of Sauron turns on. And now when you roll, it's an automatic failure, but it's also like a critical failure. It's like a critical fumble, like something bad happens to you. Whether it's through, ill luck or the pressing eye of Sauron or your own weariness and doubt in your heart, something bad will happen. Additionally, if your shadow points ever reach your maximum hope, okay, your character is basically either going to be forced to retire at the end of the session or suffer a bout of madness, where your character basically loses control of their faculties, kind of gives in to your shadow path, has a sort of loses their mind moment, and your character will gain a new flaw. It's kind of like a trauma from Blaze in the Dark. And once you gain that flaw, your character is moving down that path to becoming basically an evil person, right? Like the shadow is sort of worming its way into your heart, and sort of taking you out. So again, hope, very important. And then wits is used for parry. However, wits has another another bonus, which is every 3 adventures, we go into a special fellowship phase called Yule, basically Christmas time. Roughly speaking, you will have 1 adventure in the spring, 1 adventure in the summer, 1 adventure in the fall, and then you shouldn't adventure in the winter, because it's nasty out. And the idea is that you go home and it's an extended period of time, like 3 or 4 months that you aren't adventuring. During that time, and because of the length of our campaign, that will happen at least once, possibly twice. During Yule, you gain a bonus of experience points equal to your character's wits score. So if your character has a high wits, you actually get this like bonus. You basically went home and read books and studied. So every stat's important, is what I would say. Or rather, every stat is cool.
Yeah, they did a good job with that. It's a lot easier to do that when you only have 3 instead of 6
Yes.
or 10 or whatever. But
Agreed. Absolutely agree.
Soul Pact, what calling were you thinking for your very witty elf?
I was thinking maybe the champion. But I could be. I guess that's my duplicates because this is an insignificant part of our character. But I was leaning towards champion currently, with the assumption that you were leaning towards scholar.
I mean, if you wanted to be a elf scholar, that's fine. That's cool.
I think it would be more interesting to play the champion, but it would make more sense to be the scholar, if that makes sense.
Well, we're all about interesting here.
Yeah, we're all about it. Yeah.
Then I'll be a champion. I'm locking it in.
Yeah, I would. The only thing I would say is that when it comes time to picking your favored skills, if you people have the same, calling, like maybe not pick the same favored skills, so that there's at least something that you do that is kind of your thing, that you're at least a little better at.
Oh yeah, I think we could briefly touched on one way we could design our party is to say which theaters we excelled at. Did anybody have really want to be the travel guy coming from some sort of system?
I figured I'd do the guide. Dwarf has high travel, and I can pick it as favored on creation. So,
Nice.
And I have decent heart. So,
yeah, good heart score. 3 ranks in travel and favored is about as good of a travel roll as you're gonna get.
And then, did anybody want to take up a face roll? We probably want.
I think I would
right?
probably have a pretty good enhearten or persuade or something like that.
Yeah.
My riddle, courtesy, song, and persuade are all 2 at least.
Yeah. And remember, you do get after you pick all this, you do get a pool of experience points to raise, and you can take new skills. You can raise your combat skills. You can raise your other skills. So you do get some points.
yeah, there's
It's called previous
Chart.
experience. Yeah.
a chart on page 46. And
Yep.
we get 10 experience points. I'm probably going to spend 6 of those to get 3 axes. So I will be the axe man.
Yeah, I can be the bowman. Someone said that it was important to have some ranged combat, so I can be.
Yeah.
I
So
have potential for being decent, at least.
So yeah, the advantage of getting more dice, D6s, which are called success dice, isn't just about beating your TN. Obviously, that's part of it. But it's also because every time when you make a check, whether it's a combat check or if it's a skill roll, if you roll 6s and you get a success and you succeed, which if you're rolling 6s, you're probably likely to succeed, but it still could happen. I think during our one game that we played here on the starter box set, Tim rolled 3 6s but still failed or something. It was a good. Anyways, the 6s have a special like Tengwar rune in them, and basically that gives you bonus successes. Like you can use them to do extra damage in combat or to turn a normal hit into a critical hit. And then during like a skill check, it represents great success or even extraordinary success where you might get more than you bargained for. So essentially rolling more D6s is not only good because you can get a higher number, but it's also good because you have a better chance of rolling those 6s as well.
I think distinctive features, just a quick one, are in Foundry, they're items that you have to drag onto the character sheet. That's not text box, correct?
Yes. So if you go over to the compendium, which is the little book,
Just get my distinctive features.
and you open up the characteristics compendium, you will see that there is a folder called distinctive features, and it's by calling, and then there's also a list of common ones that you get a choice from your characters. But obviously there's also the calling, which depends on whether you picked treasure hunter or champion or whatever. And you can drag that onto your sheet and that will populate. Now that doesn't have any rules text, and nor does it have any rules text. The way that those distinctive features work is if you can, it's like a Fabulous Ultimate, right? If you can tell me why that matters for this role, then that role becomes what's called inspired. And inspired means you still have to spend a point of hope, but if you spend the point of hope, you get 2 bonus D6s instead of just 1 bonus. You can always spend a point of hope to gain a bonus D6 before you roll, but if you're inspired on that roll, then you get 2 bonus D6s. So I particularly like that from a mechanical perspective because it kind of prevents weaseling. Because if it was just, oh yes, I'm leading this group, so I get a bonus D6. Like if you would just, that's where you start trying to weasel your way into getting a bonus every time. But because it costs hope, I'm saying I don't care. Like I still want people to try, but I'm also kind of like less concerned about the weasel because it's
you're
like
already spending a resource.
You're spending a resource, so it's self-limiting in that way. So
I am an eager and inquisitive hobbit warden.
Oh.
That'll be fun.
And then also you get, I believe, shadow lore from your calling.
What's more interesting for a scholar? A hobbit or a Bree man?
Okay.
I'll put it to the party.
I think a scholar would have a good tie into like the origin of our quest. Like that's how you would want the scholar who is focused on what we want to know. So maybe if we know where our adventure would be located, would be the type of scholar we would want. I don't know.
I mean, obviously, like from like a Hobbit perspective, like I think there's a cool tie-in there where it's like, you're like, oh, I want to be like Bilbo Baggins, right? But like, or something like along those lines or whatever. But from like a Bree man perspective, what could be cool is maybe you are like obsessed with the history of Arnor, right? Like the fallen kingdom of the North. And it's kind of like, even though it was the kingdom of the Númenóreans, but only the nobles were really the Númenóreans after a certain period of time. So it's like from your perspective, you're like, this is my culture. I'm surrounded by the ruins of this. It'd be like, the aforementioned Iron Age debates that have been occurring in the Discord. Where you're like, oh, I grew up in these little, wooden huts, basically, these kind of ramshackle huts. But when I look around us, there's all these ruins of these, epic former glory of this once great kingdom. And it's like, what secrets lie there and what happened? And that could be a cool tie-in as well. I mean, ultimately, it really just whatever you're vibing with, I suppose.
Cool. I'm going to quickly roll up my name. See who I am.
Is that a D30?
D32 and a D30. Full random. I'm fully stumbling into this person.
Also, it's not like, you shouldn't car op your character, but, it could also help to like take a look at the virtues of the Men of Bree versus the virtues of the Hobbit. To see which ones, they have like for example, like the scholar, or the Bree has the strangest news from Bree, which is during every fellowship phase, you automatically receive a rumor from the lore master, cause you're just, you're tied into the stuff about that. You get, friendly and familiar normally you are limited as a party, the number of skill attempts you can make at a council. Friendly and familiar gets you one extra roll. So there's some cool,
And then I think Man of Bree has we start with one more fellowship point too, I think, as their like base class or culture feature, which is cool.
The Hobbit thing is I have my wisdom rolls are favored and I get an extra die on shadow tests against greed. So I have a reason to go for greed, but I have committed to random rolls, so we'll see what happens.
I respect it. All right, I'm going to be a Bree man scholar.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's. I actually didn't know what Bree blood did. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't actually know that. That's cool. Yeah, so you're also kind of like the glue, like that's what Solpak was saying, right? Like because it's like they have great relationships with hobbits, dwarves, and elves. You're kind of like the hey.
Fucking playing myself. God damn it.
All right, we're 3 for 3. All right,
Welcome to the club.
Damn it. So, normally I would probably roll, but
no,
our party is too strong, so I'm gonna strength wise. So I'm gonna be the weak, feeble.
Oh, nice,
Bree man.
Are you gonna be the 257 or the 266?
Good question.
Which version of physically unimposing are you? Are you young and slender? Are you old and frail?
Oh. Well, I do like doing an old man voice.
All right, lock it in. Lock it in.
That's great. That's great.
Well, if you're doing the old man, I feel like you should do with one, right? You've got the wits, but your heart's just not quite in it like it used to.
257. I like.
Yeah.
I feel like our tie into the adventure is that you and Gandalf play mahjong together.
Yeah, right. And just bitch about all these young kids, just back in my day.
Just smoking the entire time.
Yeah. The Bree actually have a virtue that they can acquire later on called the art of smoking.
Oh, nice.
It's perfect.
That's great.
It's perfect. Maybe I'm Gandalf's plug or something. That's why.
Yeah, it says you have mastered the art. You have mastered the art of smoking pipeweed, and you always carry your pipe with you, as well as a bag of tobacco. It's whenever you regain hope, you also get an additional hope point.
Beautiful. It's all coming together.
All right, so I think that's everybody. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm just going to figure out my warding calling stuff and see what that's about.
All right. So we have so Gull is playing a Hobbit of the Shire, a Warden. Jackal is playing a Man of Bree, Scholar. Solpak, you are an Elf of Linden, a champion, who apparently has suffered great losses in the fight against the Shadow. Goblins and Android is a barding captain from over the Misty Mountains, from the lands of afar. And Sinrig. No, where are you, Sinrig? Oh, you're the dwarf. Yeah. You're a dwarf of Durin's folk, a treasure hunter. Very cool.
The most important thing: how many ponies do we have, and how good are they?
Yes, we'll get to equipment, but yes, your pony equipment. Well, you do have a dwarf and a dwarf and a barding, and they are really got good ponies. You guys got good, decent ponyage because you guys are the richy rich.
Yeah, every barding needs a pony, and every pony needs a barding. That's what they say.
I'm just gonna have the dwarf carry me.
Although the barding might want to flex on you guys and have a horse.
That's true. I definitely don't want a horse. I can't ride those. Those are too big.
No, dwarf. would ever ride a horse. That's not even appropriate unless you're somehow tag teaming it with an elf. I don't understand how that worked exactly, but whatever. This game is so silly. It's silly in that it's like, you're like, oh, but our horses, like our ponies, though, like our wagon train is so important. I mean, fundamentally, if you don't have good horses or ponies, more likely, it really is almost punishingly impossible to go a long distance, basically.
Yeah, because they take away your travel fatigue.
Yeah, they take away which makes sense because they're carrying your shit.
They're carrying,
or you. So it's not as fatiguing. But so there's almost this idea because as you acquire treasure, your treasure rating will go up. So eventually, even the poor people can become prosperous enough to potentially get better horses or better ponies. It's literally like a situation where you're like, I would love to go adventure there. I just really can't. I would be too tired, and by the time I get there, I would just be shit. And so it's almost like, it's like almost like you have to level up your pony to be able to go adventure. Oh, it's funny. Okay, so obviously there's some housekeeping stuff here. You guys, as you guys bring up your character sheets, fill in your, again, from the compendium. You can go over to the compendium and go to the characteristics, and you can find your, there's a distinctive feature. So you'll be able to bring in 3 distinctive features total. Again, 2 from your list of from your culture, and then 1 will be automatically chosen by your calling. Then also you have your shadow path, which again is something that is determined by your path, your calling, I should say. Then you get your skills. You get a base level of skills. Again, you use Alt to add to the clicks. Obviously the dots are your ranks, and the circle is whether or not it is one of your favored skills or not. And again, you'll get a couple of one of those from your calling and one of those from your culture, or 2 of those from your culture. And
from calling, isn't it? Or
It's 2 calling, 1 culture, yeah.
Sorry, 2 calling, 1 culture. Thank you. And then you get to your further experience. Don't worry about fellowship focus just yet. Further experience is again on page. Previous experience is on page 46. Thank you. So you get 10 points, and there's a escalating cost. So to go from 0 to 1, it costs 1 point. From 1 to 2, 2, 2 to 3, 3, 3 to 4, 5. Combat proficiency is more expensive. So be aware of that. But this is where you can pick up some new skills. You could try to maybe max out. Consider, the sort of the overlay, right? Like getting more. You might say, "Oh, I have a low TN for that. I don't need more D6s." But maybe you want those chances to roll the 6s, or you might want a better, array of abilities to be able to handle different options. And of course, also remember that every time you go on an adventure, you will acquire skill points and adventure points, which you will then use to raise your skills every fellowship phase. So, you get more points to spend as the campaign goes on. But this is sort of an initial option to sort of tweak your change.
Is it if you find that we should fill in any of the gaps that are
right? And so that's the same
setup is not covered.
Right. And again, you don't have to feel like you have literally everything covered. I will say, just as a general advice, if you are broke, okay, if you're frugal, or, you basically, if you don't have a good pony or horse, you may want to make sure you have at least, and your heart rate, depending on what your heart rating is, it may make some sense for you to have somewhat of an okay, or at least a rank or something, or 2 in travel, because at the end of a journey, you are going to be called upon to make that travel check in order to resolve how much fatigue you get. And it can be nasty if you don't have a good horse. So if you have a good horse or pony, maybe you have to less. Like Cynric is a rich dwarf with a really high travel, so like he literally might. We dwarves are natural spinners, right? We're wasting every life. Like he he will literally be able to go and never have any problems. But other people might have problems. And of course, obviously too, that might be okay. Your character might just be weary after journeys, but that could be part of the fun as well.
Yeah, I think also there, someone having a pretty high awe or riddle or anything like that is good for the social encounter stuff.
I put
Yep.
what I've got so far in the Discord. I do still have 4 skill points that I can spend, or experience points, because I did spend the 6 to get 3 axes, so I will be Axeman. But I could since I have a decent strength, I could get awe up to 3 and have a good awe as well.
I'll just post my base things. Scholar gets rhymes of lore as their distinctive feature, so it might make sense for me to pick riddle as my favored. Either riddle or insight are my options.
Yeah, I've also made all of you observers by default, so you should be able to take a look at.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now we can see other people's character sheets.
Now you can open up other people's character sheets.
How do you make a skill favorite again? Sorry.
You alt click on the circle to the left of it, and that'll checkbox it. And then when you go to roll it, you'll be rolling 2d12 take high favorite. And it goes without saying, by the way, that if you roll a Gandalf rune, you automatically succeed. It's there you go. Huzzah! Brom has successfully passed their truffle roll, just barely.
Just barely, with all those dice and favored. But
Well, listen. Welcome to Free League, where you'll be like, "Oh, I'm rolling 10d6. I'm guaranteed to roll a 6, right? Not a single one. I pushed to reroll. Nope, only ones. Okay, well, not only did my character just break and die, I also still failed, so that was great.
Yeah, I've been playing Invincible on Tuesdays, and that's pretty much been the experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I'm up to the Free League. Cool.
So I could get awe up to 3, which would give me a pretty good chance of awe, or I could just spread out more and be a little bit better at other stuff. I don't know.
It looks like my character's going to end up having awe too, but can you describe what that is?
Yeah, like you mean like the mechanic, or like what it specifically
Thematically, like what is it representing?
Yeah, so it's kind of a mixture of both intimidate, but also like, wow, this person is like has insane riz, just like just like utter, like just completely. Did we lose goblins? It was like we did. Hopefully they rejoin. This is what was I saying? Oh, bio. Okay, got it. I got distracted by someone leaving. Right. Oh, yeah. So, again, it's your not only your ability to intimidate, but your capacity to make people respect you. And set an incredibly good first impression. Like you could argue that, like in the movies, right? Like Éowyn was sort of awed by Aragorn. She wasn't intimidated, but she was like, "Oh, look at this magnificent man." Yeah, right. Exactly. So again, it could mean that, you can win the hearts and minds of people. So it's not just, I'm gonna, and it might strike fear in your enemies, right? And admiration and, almost fandom in your allies, right? That kind of way. So, specifically in combat, it has. I mean, anything can obviously be anything, but in combat, if your character is in a forward position, which is to say, you're kind of at the front of the battle, your character has, in that forward stance, you gain access to the intimidate foe action. And intimidate foe action uses awe, the awe skill. And if you succeed at your awe roll, then you can basically, put the fear of Iru Iluvatar into your enemies, and they will suffer dice penalties to all of their rolls.
Mm-hmm. That's Sam climbing the tower and getting absolutely hyped up. scaring all the orcs when he's rescuing Frodo.
But yeah, they be all the enemies become weary, which means all their 1s, 2s, and 3s become 0. And it actually affects the entire all the might 1 enemies. But if you get the Tengwar runes, if you roll the 6s, you can eventually potentially apply to everybody in the fight, like even trolls or like Uruk-hai captains or whatever like that. But so it can be very powerful, even as even if you're not fighting, right?
One of the Men of Bree male name options was Alfred, so I think it's fitting for my old man.
Are you going to be my butler?
Oh yes.
And Isengard Proudfoot. Proud feet.
Your first name is Isengard?
Yeah, Isengard, no D.
Oh, okay.
Isengard. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Oh man.
Kind of like Isambard Kingdom Brunel, but with a G. I was thinking I was going to take my awareness to 3 with one skill points, but
He was named for the place where he was conceived.
conceived, born,
What a place to be.
Well, no, they went there on vacation for their honeymoon.
On the summit of Orthanc is his name?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, currently, Saruman, good dude.
Right. That's right.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
As far as we know.
I can say many wives. Gandalf took me over there.
How long before the Fellowship is this?
Probably about 30. Well, okay, before the Fellowship book, right? Because remember, the Fellowship book starts, and then there's the birthday party, and then like
Then there's like a
he's
been chilling.
and then there's like 15 years or something, right? Until Frodo actually leaves the Shire, right?
Secret.
Right. Right. Keep it secret and safe for a decade or more. And then he comes back. And
that
then
movie doesn't do a good job of it.
No. And then
it was like a month later, he comes back. All right, you guys got to get out.
Yeah. Well, not only that, after Gandalf gets back and tells him, hey, this is the One Ring and you need to go, Frodo's like, oh, right. Let me buy another house, set up a shell account and set up a completely fake identity. Then I'm going to have my other Hobbit friend pretend to be me. And it's going to take us like a year to set this up. And then I'll leave, as opposed to being like, just grabbing shit off of the fucking mantelpiece and being like, I'm ready to go. Yeah, they definitely,
Shout to his friend for basically being the bait.
Oh, the bait. Yep.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Ring. They're going to be hunting the ring. All right, I'm going to spend a year fabricating all this so that just in case anyone comes in, they're absolutely going to torture and kill you.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in Rivendell having a great time.
Shout out Fatty Bolger. That's the best. That's the name of that.
That's right. Yeah.
That's Fatty Bolger. Yeah. So anyways, from that perspective, it's like almost, 50 years or something like that. But yeah, it's a good chunk of time.
So brawling is working differently. It looks like you get
brawling is
you have or something?
Yeah. So brawling is whatever your highest combat skill is -1.
Okay.
So if you have 4 ranks in axes, you have 3 in brawling. If you have 4 ranks in bow, you have 3 in brawl. What was I going to say? Shit, forgot. Yes. If anybody is finished with their skills, you can then start to make some decisions about your. You can figure out your character's starting stats once you have your stats in, so you can figure out your hope, your endurance max. They start at max. Congrats. And then, but then you can start to think about your equipment and your war gear. So you, for the most part, you can kind of take anything. This is in page. I don't know what page it is. Page something. The descriptions of the stuff is different from the actual mechanics of it, so that's the only problem with it. Where is it? It's like in the combat section. Here it is. Okay, yeah. So weapons, armor, and shields are all described on page 100. So the rule is that you can take any, and again, this they do have in the compendium. So if you go to the compendium and you go to the equipment compendium, different compendium, you see that there is armor, shields, and armor, weapons. You can start with any, you can start with one weapon for anything that you have a rank in. But just because you can have it doesn't mean you might want to have it. And then armor and shields depends on your, and helms depends on your character's standard of living. So in order to have a mail shirt, you have to have at least a common standard of living. In order to have a coat of mail, you have to be at least prosperous. Shields, you have to be common to have a shield, and prosperous to have a great shield.
My dude's all bows and sneaking and awareness and insight and things like this. He is knowledgeable and sneaky.
Right. And then dwarves and hobbits do have a restriction on what weapons they can use.
Yeah.
Like they shout. And again, shields will raise your parry rating. Shields are really great, but they have a high load rate relative to what they do, just because they're, not only is it heavy, but it's also like on your arm as opposed to, it's just bulky and in your way. One thing that is a potential thing that may occur in this game, is you might be fighting and you take some damage and your character starts to lose endurance and you become weary and you might drop your shield or take off your helmet, which will reduce your load and thus remove the weary condition from you so that you can fight more effectively. Kind of that epic moment where you take the helmet off.
So this doesn't look like it's doing my dwarf half load on stuff.
It is not. Yeah. Again, it's not the most automated thing. So what you can do is just just override it. Yep. I know.
Load do we start with? I don't recall seeing that.
Yeah. So you start with
looking.
Yeah, you start with 0 load.
Okay.
And you can carry up to your strength score in load. Or you can carry up to your your endurance score in load. It'll just be auto weary. But just remember that every point of load that you get will basically count as permanent fatigue for you becoming weary for purposes of your endurance. So, like, you have 25 max endurance goblins. So, if you're carrying 15 load, your character is not weary. But if the moment you lose 10 points of endurance, you would become weary. So the cool big items are definitely cool and big, and but they do weigh a lot. And there are some other considerations to make as well, which is obviously when you're looking at page 100 and you're looking at a weapon and you're thinking in terms of min max. So damage is just how much damage it does, flat out. That's how much endurance the creature loses when they take damage. If the injury rating is if you roll a 10 or a Gandalf rune, you can cause a critical injury. That's the DC that they have to pass in order to avoid being, for the most part, for most monsters, instantly slain. So like if you crit somebody with a great axe, they have to make a DC 20 check. Yeah, they're probably going to die. Whereas if you crit somebody with a cudgel, the DC is 12. The other thing to consider, which is not really shown here, is that in combat, when you roll sixes, you can use those sixes, okay, to get certain modifications. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to say the following. Spears are great. Spears are really a good weapon in Lord of the Rings. They are very good at potentially increasing your defense and also potentially getting critical hits. Bows are really nasty at getting critical hits. They don't do a lot of damage, but that they can crit and kill enemies if you roll well enough. Axes, not that great, but they just do a lot of base damage, and if they crit, are almost certainly to take somebody else out. So those are kind of how swords and spear, and then swords are, well, they're kind of a balance. They're kind of a mix. They're pretty good. They're okay at defense. They're okay at offense. They're just kind of a good mix. Yeah, so that's kind of how axes, bows, swords, and spears kind of break down. Other than that, it's just a question. Now, the other thing is that when you are fighting, if you roll a 6, you can do extra damage, and that's going to be equal to your character's strength score. And if you're using a two-handed weapon, you do even more damage. So two-handed weapons, in addition to doing more damage base, also can do more damage as a bonus. And that's kind of the advantage you get for having to have, not have a hand free / have a shield. Again, armor doesn't work like armor class. That's parry. That's what shields do. In addition to your character's base parry. And then armor is if your character gets a piercing blow, which is like a critical hit, you are going to have to make a roll or suffer a wound and potentially be dropped. So the better your armor is, the better, more dice you get to roll plus a d12 to try to defeat that. So you can see, like, if you hit yourself with a great axe and you had to make a TN 20 check and you only had a leather shirt, you would be rolling d12 plus d6 and you have to get a 20. So you're in a tough spot. You basically have to roll the Gandalf rune or you're kind of screwed. So
is there any mechanical thing on the male shirt being a hobbit warden who has common standard living could get a male shirt?
Yep.
Doesn't entirely not make sense, but also I am like a stealthy boy. So it seems like it's a bit like fictionally weird positioning, but I wonder if there's any mechanical downside or benefit to going leather versus male.
No, not particularly. There's no armor check penalty or anything like that. Obviously, the game does allow me as a game master to potentially award or penalize D6s to a roll if I think that something fictionally, is sort of appropriate. And depending on the situation and the case, I could see that an argument could be made that anyone wearing male armor might suffer a D6 circumstance penalty to a, say, stealthy roll.
That's what it seems like to me, because male is freaking loud.
Yeah. So rather than give me a, rather than give a bunch of rules for it, it kind of just says, hey, GM, here's this generic carte blanche tool of assign penalty dice or assign bonus dice when you think the situation warrants, and we trust your load to this. I would even probably be more mechanical about it, and say it's probably tied to the load, because if you had a mithril male shirt, well, then the load would be low and it wouldn't cause you any problems. While you're making, not to throw another branch of this. So at the beginning of the game, everybody starts with 1 valor and 1 wisdom. Basically level 1, which means you get to start with 1 virtue and you get to start with 1 reward. Now your starting virtue has to be a common virtue. It can't be one of the ones from your culture. So that means on page 80. So you either start with confidence, you're dour-handed, you're hardy, you have mastery, nimbleness, or prowess. All of them are good.
Yeah, all of them are very good.
All of them are good, and it's going to be dour-handed is probably the one that's easiest to not pick, because if you're I'm never going to be fighting anything in combat anyways. But confidence gives you +2 to your hope, your max hope. Hardiness gives you a bonus to your endurance. It's the only way in the game that you can raise your hit points. Prowess lets you lower the TN. It doesn't change your stat, but it lowers the TN of one of your 3 attributes by 1. Nimbleness.
What I'm picking.
Yeah, nimbleness gives you a point of parry, and mastery lets you pick 2 more skills and make them favored, which means you basically get to roll them with advantage. So they're all very good. However, when you get a further ranks in wisdom, you get to pick new virtues. It could be from this list. It could also be from your cultural list. But you also get rewards. And rewards are on page, I think, 79 or something. Yeah, 79. And you basically, one of your weapons or one of your items might be a special item. So you might have, say, a cunning make shirt. And that reduces the load of that item by 2. So, when you're picking your armor or your shield, it might be cunning or it might be close fitting. Your weapon might be keen or fell or grievous. So take that into consideration as well.
I'm going to pick up prowess and lower my heart TN to 15.
Yeah, there's really no wrong answer from the Verd. They're all quite good, and you also the ones eventually that you'll get from your race culture are also quite good as well.
I'm trying to figure out how to lower my TN here. Well, what? Do I need to do it through?
That's a great
Effects on prowess or something.
Great question. I don't know.
I think I might have found it.
Oh, I'm curious myself.
I was adding a new effect to the prowess virtue, and it looks like I can select heart TN downgrade 1, but that didn't seem to work. Refresh. Thought maybe something in there because there was like a drop down for selecting heart TN and everything.
Oh, I see it. Yeah. If that didn't work.
I'm refreshing. Nope, that didn't seem to work. You see if I roll.
Let's see. There has to be a way to override that, right? It might just be something. Let's see here.
Oh, okay. If I do override and then -1, that worked. Okay. So
Okay.
in effect, the override -1.
Got it.
Override to me would be like the value, but it's not. Okay. Because I did override 15 and it's like, your TN's 30 something. I was like, no.
Okay.
Maybe.
Cool. What does this mean? In Dour Handed, the second part, add +1 to the feat die numerical result on a pierce.
Yeah. Okay. So, you're looking at the virtue of Dour Handed?
Yes.
Yeah. So, if you make an attack roll and you succeed, you hit your enemy. If you roll 6s, you get several options. One of the options that you can do is called Pierce. And Pierce changes the value of the D12 and it ticks it up. In the case of spears and bows, each 6 that you roll, you can change the value of your D12 by +3. In the case of swords, you can change it by +2. And in the case of axes, you can change it by +1. Dour Handed lets you add +1 on top of that. So if you had, for example, a spear and you pierced, you could add 4 to your D12. Now remember, you have to hit first. But like, for example, if you rolled a 6 on your D12 and you hit and you have a spear and you're dour handed and you rolled a 6, you could change that 6 to a 10. That 10 is now a piercing blow. And you now
have to test the die.
And which means they now have to test or die.
Yeah. And then you could also get, one of the rewards. You could do like keen on the spear and make it a crit on a 19 or whatever.
Or a 9. Yeah. One of the rewards you can have is like a keen spear. And that piercing blows on a Gandalf rune, a 10, and a 9. So basically you get a piercing blow on 3 out of 12. So 25% of your rolls. And if you had dour handed, you could change like a 5 to a 9, which would be a piercing blow, which could kill them. Yeah. So again, combat, that's not, it can, sometimes it could, drag on and they're fighting you back and they're defending. But if you land a piercing blow, which basically, so this is kind of like that Legend of the Five Rings sense where endurance doesn't represent you getting hit, right? It represents you blocking and, taking, scuffs and being worn down. Piercing blow means they got through your, penetration. And now the only thing stopping you from taking a spear or an arrow or sword to the chest or the gut is your armor. Does it stop it or not? And if it doesn't, you're probably in bad shape. Now, there are bigger monsters that do have more wounds. They don't just die. But most of your common goblins, orcs, bandits, evil men, generic people all have 1 wound. And so they die if you piercing blow them. So yeah, dour-handed can be, again, you can be a combat monster in this game.
Somebody looking at that, they're not. If you wanted to do a spear build, like you could just one tap people a lot. For it.
Yeah, well, I know that somebody was described. They basically did that with bows, right? They were because bow. One of the special action of bow is you can basically pass your turn, and you can aim, and it lets you make a scan roll, and then depending on what you roll on your scan roll, you get a bunch of bonus d6s to your next shot. And so they're like, I never wanted to shoot my bow. Somebody was describing this in the Patreon. They're like, I never wanted to shoot if I shot my bow and I didn't crit somebody, I was like, what am I even doing here? That's like, so they were just like, aim, through the arrow slit, through the arrow, through the visor slit, their armor is weak, at the shoulder and the neck, just like one-shotting people.
If you're not trying to be Legolas, what's even the point of playing an actor in a Lord of the Rings game?
Well, that's like when Tim, during our starter set, he was kind of like, man, my character, he was an elf and he had a bow and he was like, man, my character's kind of, shitty at combat. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, wait a second. I can spend a hope to make anything a magical success. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, that's a Gandalf rune. And I said, yeah. And he goes, so is that a piercing blow? I go, yeah. And he goes, wait, so every shot I make can be a critical hit? And I go, yeah. And he goes, oh my God.
Yeah, no, elves aren't OP.
Yeah, elves aren't OP. Yeah, not at all. But hey, they're elves. I mean, what do you want?
Guess I'll roll my reward and virtue then, and then I think.
Wait, you're gonna roll it?
Yeah. I'm committed to the bit. The whole.
All right, buddy.
Where were
How do you add the rewards to the weapons or the things?
So rewards are on page 80. The weapons list is on page 100.
But how do you add it in Foundry? Or
in Foundry, it's in the compendium. If you go to the book icon, the compendium, there's the equipment. And you have your armor, your shields, and your weapons. And then under characteristics, there is a drop down of virtues and a drop down of rewards. Now, I don't think. Yeah,
but you can't add them to the weapon or anything.
No. You should. What you should do is drag it onto your sheet, and then you can edit it and change the name. And if you need to update your equipment and call it, close fitting helm, you can do that. And then just manually change the values. Unfortunately, yeah, nothing cool and clever.
Okay.
unfortunately. All right, what do we get, Gol?
I got a fell weapon, so my bow is heckin' nice, and hardiness, so my endurance is heckin' high.
There you go.
Which checks out. He's a bounder, bounder of the East Farthing, the ranger of the Hobbit peoples.
Yeah, there you go. Also note, it doesn't really matter yet, but eventually hardiness does scale as your character's wisdom grows. So,
Nice.
What is our parry rating?
so your parry rating is depend on your culture. So if you're a dwarf, it's low. If you're an elf, it's high. So it depends on your character's culture, but it's usually wits plus 10 or 12 or 11. I don't remember what the other one is. And then that's it. And then if you have a shield, it goes up.
And what is the parry rating?
Oh, sorry. That is the TN that I have to hit you. So if an orc comes and swings at you, that's what they need to roll. So D12 plus some number of D6s. Let's say three success dice is pretty, a reasonable amount of proficiency. That's a pretty skilled individual. So I might be rolling D12 plus 3 dice, let's just say. So on average, I'm going to be getting like a 16, 17 or something in that nature. Lesser skilled creatures, like a weedy goblin or orc might roll 2 dice. And so they're going to roll D12 plus, 2D6. They could get as high as 24, but probably they're going to end up with something in the neighborhood of, 12 or 13. So, I know there's I think it's possible to be, like a scholar elf can have like a 20 parry. So again, it's one of the ways that they kind of balance things, which is like weak hobbits and weak elves. Sure, they quote unquote suck at combat, but their parry rating is insane. So like they're really hard to hit.
I like the idea of us like setting out laden with all sorts of shit, and then one combat we're just throwing the helmets, shields, get rid of this.
Drop. Anecdote time, but like when there's this people try to do this shakedown and stuff like that, but there is depending on where you start, for me I went south, but on the Appalachian Trail there's this like the first like major town you hit after starting the Appalachian Trail has there's this store where there's like a bunch of boxes, like a big like chests, and it's just full of stuff that people drop off because they started, they're like, oh, I'm definitely going to bring this thing. And then they've been hiking for like a week or two now. And they're like, fuck it. I don't need it anymore. and if it's not, and if it's something expensive, you might like pay to have it shipped home. But if you're like, I didn't need that. I thought I needed this umbrella. I'm not bringing this umbrella, but when I went there was like a banjo, like, you just saw all this stuff that people were like, fuck it. I'm not carrying this thing. I'm done. Speaking of gear, now this doesn't affect your load, but as part of your starting equipment, you get your war gear, obviously, of course. But you also get to start with useful items. And this is on page 49. If you are an elf, you only start with 1 because you are frugal. If you are a hobbit or a man of Bree, you start with 2 because you are common. And if you are a prosperous barding or dwarf, you start with 3 useful items. Now, what is a useful item? It's anything that you could basically think of or come up with. However, each useful item is tied to a particular skill. And you, now inside of the compendium, if you go to the equipment, there is a thing called useful items, and they just have a generic thing for each skill as an example. But you could literally pick anything you want. So if you want something for crafting, you could bring an armor care kit, onto your character sheet if you want. But you can make up anything you want. And basically, it's tied to that skill. And if you're making a roll outside of combat, and that particular item seems like it should make sense, you get a +1 die to using that skill. So this is another way for you to either double down on skills that you're already very good at, or it could be a way to sort of buoy up a skill that you think you might be making sometimes. And again, elves only get 1 of these, same with rangers, but dwarves and bardings get 3. Now, you should note that if they... it basically lasts for the adventuring phase. So even if you get something like a bottle of whiskey, a bottle of fine dwarven spirits, or, a healing balm or something like that, it's considered to have lasted enough for the adventuring phase. Typically, these equipments can be lost and can be destroyed, but during a fellowship phase where you have access to, basically stores and stuff like that, you basically are considered to be able to, re-equip them, if you will.
I start with 30 treasure.
Yeah.
Am I reducing treasure as I
Nope.
pull up all my starting gear and all that stuff?
Nope. So treasure only goes basically up. It's just it's a reflection of your how much wealth you have squirreled away, and the game sort of hand waves all of that stuff.
Nice. I'm wondering if I should pick up a little half-starved pony for my.
I should. You sorry that you will start with that automatically.
Oh, nice.
What rewards did you guys all choose? I'm having a hard time.
I picked a close-fitting helmet. Or cunning made, I guess it was called. Reduce the load of the helmet by 2.
I will also probably take the cunning something since my strength is 2. As a reward or a virtue, I will probably going to take mastery. I think it's fitting for my old man.
Scholar, yeah. You're gonna be good at all the skills. Oh, I did prowess, lowered my heart TN with that, and then I did a reinforced shield, so I got +1 parry. And I think reinforced shield makes you immune to like shield break from enemies.
No, magical shields can't be broken.
Okay.
I think. But your shield could still technically be broken. I'm pretty sure. But there's definitely a rule in there about special things can't be broken. But I think that's magic. But again, if you have access to your culture, and it's within your funding, you can do it. But we'd have to double check that. Yes, if you are common. So if you're a elf, you start with a old horse or half-starved pony, and it has a vigor rating of 1. So it'll reduce your low vigor that you take on a journey by 1. If you are prosperous, which is our men of Bree and hobbits, they start with a decent beast, vigor 2, so that'll reduce you by 2. And then if you are rich or very rich, oh nope, never mind, I got that wrong. Sorry. Poor or frugal. The elf doesn't start with shit. They get no horse. But the hobbit and the men of Bree start with an old horse or a half-starved pony, which is a vigor rating of 1. And the prosperous dwarf and the prosperous barding bring a decent beast with a vigor rating of 2. If you eventually become rich, you get a fine beast, which has a vigor rating of 3. So, yes. In addition, each horse that you bring can be laden with good and can carry up to 10 points of treasure back from an adventure.
Where do we record our pony stuff? Is that on the character sheet or is it a separate character?
I believe it is on the
It basically gives you more endurance in the end of a journey, so I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm not
Whatever
seeing
it was.
one in the compendium or anything.
Yeah, I think It is. I think it is in. Yeah, I think it's in the journey log.
Got it.
So I don't know if I can link.
Yeah, but under mounts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just basically, do you bring Bill with you on this journey?
Yeah. I don't know why I think you saying Soul Pass should be weary. Soul Pass should be weary.
Because he has too much stuff.
My load is 8 for red.
Current
Oh,
endurance.
sorry, I only changed my.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay. Now you have 2,200. We both changed at the same time. All right. There we go. Okay. Yeah. And by the way, you can see, on your sheet, you can see that fatigue diamond, right? That's what's going to build up, as you journey. And that's going to basically count that plus your load is what is your total, for purposes of determining whether you're weary or not. Same thing with the shadow as well.
And with the pony done, I think my dude is done.
Yeah, I was gonna say, after you complete your elements of that, there's one element that we're gonna still have to do, which is your fellowship focus. But we can definitely wait for anybody else. And of course, if you do have any questions or anything like that, but and let's see.
Where were the rewards stored in the compendium?
So the rewards are stored in believe it or not, in characteristics under rewards. Yeah. But again, you can drag them onto your sheet, but you can't really like drag them onto an item. Yeah, you kind of have to edit the item. It's not clever enough, but yeah, unfortunately.
Okay.
They call my pony Barleycorn.
That's such a good name.
That is a good name. That is a good name.
I call my pony. Oh wait, I don't get a pony. What useful items did you guys all grab?
We could do like a little walkthrough of introduce our characters if you want.
Oh, sure. Let's wait. Can we wait till everyone's done? But.
Yeah.
I missed. Where was the pony stuff at?
It is
page 50.
Well, I meant like where we put that info in?
It doesn't. There isn't actually a thing on it yet. It's on the journey log, which is part of. That's a different thing. So you'll have to just, I don't know, add it.
Just put it in the notes.
Yeah, put it in your notes or something like that.
Old horse.
So ponies are sturdy beasts, but cannot go much faster than a normal walking pace, especially when loaded with tackle and stores, but are good to help characters cope with the long hours rows. Horses can go faster, but few animals are seen in the north, and most are just used as pack animals or draught beasts. So you're real fine stepping if you show up on a horse. But also, I think if you're from Bree, you can eventually get a super. You can basically get Bill. You can. There's like one of your virtues that you can take from leveling up is specifically a Bree pony, which is like the ultimate pony. No pony is better. Yes, it has a vigor rating of 4, so it's like the best pony of all time, and you get +1 permanent max hope. And it will never leave your side. And if you are forced to abandon it, for example, if you're entering an underground passage, you can choose to find the pony where you left it when you return, or you can have it auto fast travel back to Bree.
That's impressive.
Like a heartbreaking thing regarding Sam having to send Bill back when they went into Moria will be like, oh, so we literally lost 1 point of hope, did Samwise.
Yeah, well, he was very sad, right? He was
Yeah.
like, and then Aragorn says, "Don't worry, Bill knows his way back." And you're like, "Wait, does he? What? That doesn't even make sense. He's a horse. Like, how is that even going to happen?" But apparently, it does.
There's actually a 97-page short story in the Tolkien where in the extended, his other works. It's just the adventures of Bill.
I'm sure there's some like fanfic that does that.
He killed one of the ring wraiths. Just kicked.
Right. Yeah, just kick the shit out of them. So while we wait for people to finish up, so the last thing to sort of that will be, and this is more of like a conversation that we can have back and forth. And of course, this thing could also change. Probably it would never change during an adventure, but it could change during a fellowship phase, which is your fellowship focus. And obviously, the fellowship rating as a total represents your guys' commitment to each other, your loyalty as a band, and not just a band of adventurers, but a company of heroes. However, you can have now. You don't need a fellowship focus, but you may have a fellowship focus, and this is a deeper respect, a kinship, maybe someone that is older and wiser that you look up to, or maybe someone younger and that you view as more of a protege or mentor, a special kinship with a companion. Or even a deep affection. So you may choose one member of the company as your fellowship focus. Now, it doesn't have to be reciprocal, and they technically don't need your permission to do this. And you can also opt to leave it blank now and pick one later as the game evolves. And again, doesn't have to be reciprocal. In game terms, normally, when you help someone, you have to spend a point of hope. They gain a bonus D6 to their roll. And you can only be helped once, so the most you can get is 1d6. If they are your fellowship focus, they get 2d6 instead of 1. However, whenever your fellowship focus becomes wounded or is in serious trouble or harm, or if they suffer a bout of madness or something else horrible happens to them, you gain a shadow point. Because it's filling you with, sadness and despair to see this person that you care about suffering or mentally or physically. So it's a very powerful thing. It literally doubles the bonus value of this. And in fact, I think the hobbits have a virtue where they can take multiple fellowship focuses, like, so, because they're just, they're just friends with everybody. But, so again, you don't have to pick one, but, it could be some cool thing where you guys just kind of say like, oh yeah, like my character looks up to your character. And again, that can change during every fellowship phase. So, every couple sessions when we have a fellowship phase, you might say, hey, I mean, obviously I still love and respect you, but man, I have a newfound respect for so-and-so after the amazing whatever. And I'm really, I'm keen on them right now. So.
We're doing backstory card stuff. Is that true? Is that still the case?
That is the case, yes. However, and this is entirely up to you guys, I have found that some people who are relatively new at it work a little bit better with that remotely, like asynchronously, because it puts them less on the spot and they feel like they don't have to. Some people can feel awkward because they're like, I don't know what to do. And because it is a round robin thing, right, where it's like you pick one person, you roll randomly, we could also choose to just do that over the course of the next week. Because I was going to get into this. I really want everybody here for the first session. Everybody indicated that they can, and obviously there's 2 weeks I will be out because of Gen Con and Origins. However, there are 2 weeks where I think basically two people can't make it. And one of them is Mr. Randomness himself. And I'm just checking the calendar here. So yeah, 5 results. Okay. So Gull cannot make it next week. So we're going to do our session 0. So we have 2 weeks. So we could do a much more involved backstory card system with you guys, and we could just do it through our channel and just give you guys chances to kind of, talk about it back and forth, have a little discussions, asynchronously. And then, you also get a good sense of when it's your turn coming up. And then, you kind of be on the spot for that. But, it's not really like the most, pressing thing. But by delaying a week, everyone could be there for the first week. Then we'll have 2 adventures or 2 sessions. Then it'll be Origins. I won't be here. And then we'll be able to go for like 5 or 6 weeks in a row. And then 5 or 6. So other than those 2 weeks, we should be able to have a good session. Now, you paid your gold tickets. That's a formality. Like we did session 0. If we do 11 or 12 sessions and we're like, oh, this one more, we're going to play another session. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, I'm not going to be like, well, that's it, guys. Get fucked. We're going to have a good
end on a cliffhanger and just,
yeah.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah. Like the Torchbearer campaign did, the Sunday call. Cause that was like a scheduling thing. And then it just went to shit. But like Saturday Crew, they were supposed to have one more session, but like Saturday Crew was kind of like, this is kind of a cool, like they weren't even in the dungeon, by the way, when the campaign ended. They had looted it of all of its treasure. They had gone to like Elf Home. They had gone to the city, and we were kind of like, okay, this is a good spot for us to end. Sunday Crew ended with them finally acquiring and convincing the ghosts, the elvish spirit, that they were worthy and getting the Dragonbone Bagger so that they could go kill Pyoria. And then we never played the final session. And so I always do feel bad about that one. So I want to avoid that as much as I can. So, basically we'll end at a good spot. I would love to be able to get through at least 2 in-game years and have 2 full fellowships, because we didn't really get too much into the detail of this, but my intention is for these Patreon campaigns to potentially be arcs, which is to say, after this arc of the One Ring, if there's enough interest and I'm still vibing with it, I might run One Ring again, maybe immediately or maybe, next summer. And if there are people who want to keep playing from this group, you kind of have like first right of refusal to pay the tickets and get in, and you will continue the story. One of the things that I really think is really cool about this game is that sense of passing of time and distance, and to see your characters kind of, evolve and grow. And other new characters can, somebody might say, I'm good, like I had fun, but something else came up or whatever. And then other new people can join in as well. So that's kind of my intention with this as well. So actually with the help of a little bit of Claude, I actually created a custom backstory card deck for the One Ring.
Oh, hell yes.
So we actually, and I also tweaked it a little bit, with some things that I personally would change. Like the backstory cards are kind of like, there's 2 tags. There's a bunch of tags, but that kind of describes the flavor of the cards. But a lot of cards have either the adversarial tag on them or the drama tag. And adversarial is like, that PC pissed you off. Why? What tension do you have between you? And I thought that was really inappropriate. And same thing with the drama. I just don't feel like having drama is as much of a thing. So I rebuilt it, and like, instead it has tags like valor and wisdom and shadow and fellowship and things of that nature. And so basically, oh, hey, there you go. Thank you for posting. I saw that. Rewards or magical qualities cannot be smashed and thus is unaffected. Sick. Yeah. So your shield is also indestructible.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So anyways, but so this one ties to normally on the setting grid, you have individual group, place, and event. And in this case, I also added patrons. So like, for example, if say Alfred got this card, it would be, the name you were given. Patron, which for you guys chose Gandalf. So it would be like, Gandalf trusted you with a name, an individual, a place, or a word. You were told to remember it and never say it aloud carelessly. Do you still have it? Has it never come up again? So that would be like a story card that you would get. Otar, son of Ragnar, might get a modest hope. Oh, so this is what you would have drawn, which is everyone go around the company. What is one hope modest, ordinary, the kind you would be embarrassed to say out loud that you're carrying into the journey ahead. So again, it's really just about FBT and building up these sort of, ideas about who our characters are. But what they also allow me to do is take notes about what you guys are interested in and what you guys are kind of engaged with and involved with. And we can go from there. So, and I'm totally content to do that over the next week or two while we're offline. Number one, it kind of keeps us engaged in the game and keeps us thinking about the game, which is really cool. Two, it just gives you a little bit more time to maybe think about your answers and be put on the spot. Because and also potentially it also lets us, a lot of times I like to do like 3 rounds of this. But with 5 players, that's 15 cards, and it can eat up a lot of time. That's how session zeros turn into session 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. So I'm totally cool to do this, especially because I made the deck, and that's why. But and I think it'd be a lot of fun. But and I'm unfortunately not going to do that with everybody because they're playing 6-session games. But since we're playing a 12-session game, I think it's worth it. So that's the plan.
Hell yeah.
The other thing that we'll do in the off time is we'll get some tokens made, some art picked up for your characters as well, and answer any other additional questions. So we're about 2.5 hours in. So I know, Jacko, you got to dip out soon. Are there any questions? Anybody want to talk about? We can obviously wait with the fellowship focus maybe until after those backstory cards. That's totally fine to leave blank. Does anybody have any questions about their characters or anything like that?
Nothing weird.
Just as a general, the One Ring 2nd edition.
Yeah.
You guys, what do you think is an appropriate amount of load to have?
As an experiment, I went hyper light, and I'll be excited to see how that works.
It's kind of the strat that I think I've adopted.
I have 17 load.
Also, my strength is 2, so
I have 15 load.
And you're not a dwarf. That's the important part.
Yes, but I have a fine pony.
I went 8 of 24.
Yeah. So
Yeah, 9 of 24 on my end.
Yeah, I have 15 of 25. So
17 of 28.
now, is that with your dwarf reduction?
Yes, that's with my dual cert.
Holy shit. Okay, well, yeah, but that's because he's got a coat of mail and a shield and a helm.
Yeah.
I mean, point in comparison, if he gets hit, he's rolling 5 dice for his reduction of a piercing blow. He's also got a long hafted axe and a short spear. So you get that is you are definitely that's a lot. And again, one of the things I love about this game is if you're weary, your 1s, 2s, and 3s become 0. But it's not like it's -3. Right, where your 6s, no, your 4s, 5s, and 6s are completely untouched. So it penalizes, so to speak, your low end.
Weird doesn't even exist if you roll good.
Correct. As long as you don't get hit. Well, the other thing too is, in certain instances, like in the case of Grom and Otar, right, they are going to be, taking off a couple of points from their journeys. So it's like everybody else, like, oh, hey, everybody gained 3 fatigue. And it's like, Soul Pack is going to be like, well, I gained 3 fatigue. I don't have a horse. I was walking the whole time. And then carrying all my shit. But then, Otar and Grom are going to be like, oh, I only take 1. So.
And then we've got our travel rolls.
And then you have your travel roll to shake it off, and in your case, Cineric, you're going to be making that roll probably most of the time. So, so again, there's kind of a balance to that. Also, if you have a really good parry rating, you probably won't get hits. And if you don't get hits, well, you won't lose endurance. And if you don't lose endurance, well, then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
and then
I'll have 17 parry. So
yeah. And then lastly, if a lot of your load is coming from a helm or a shield in a combat situation, which is the most common situation where you're going to be acquiring, losing endurance, you could potentially in a pinch, drop the shield, doff the helmet and suddenly drop your load by like 6 points or something like that and get back into the game. Lastly, as you guys adventure, you can acquire songs. Now, I don't know if anybody off the rip is good at singing. But the company can learn songs. And as you learn songs, which is going to be tracked on your company sheet, by the way, as you learn songs, you'll have the ability to write a song. And you can do that during a fellowship phase. And one of the things you can do is choose to undertake. And you can either write a lay, a song of victory, or a walking song. And if you write a song of victory, they just matter to which of it's either a journey, a conflict, or a combat. Anyways, if you make the check and you sing the song, during that combat or during that journey or during that conflict, anyone who is weary is not considered to be weary. So like if everybody was super weary and you knew a walking song, the road goes ever on, right? If you make that check, everybody in the party ignores weary. Or if you're in a combat and you start singing your song of victory, of the tale of the tale of the orcs being destroyed at the bridge or whatever, that you wrote, then everybody ignores weary for the whole combat. So, yeah.
But you're just going to change all my skill alignment assignments to stack in this song.
Yes. And the thing about it too is you can only use each song once per adventure. And so you may eventually want to have multiple songs of victory so that you can sing different songs of victory depending on how many combats you get into. How many walk but again, and of course you are encouraged heavily, by me, Derek, and AI or not, if you want to tweak in there. But anybody who writes an actual song based off of your actual exploits and then actually sings it, let me say you're going to be getting some bonus dice. Let me just say that, okay?
All right. I'm moving points to song.
But yes,
I'm going to rewrite Wurzel's tune.
Yes, it says the player is encouraged to come up with a song title, lyrics, and take inspiration from events that occurred to the company or focusing on one or more of the player heroes. So again, and if a company includes a champion, they can even choose this activity as a free undertaking. So there you go. Go. So anyways, so again, songs. If you've read The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, you know that songs are definitely a thing in Tolkien's writing, and they actually are kind of sweet here too. So singing can actually be really, really powerful and really potent. Yeah, cool. So I think that's it for that purpose then. So let's quickly just go over and then we'll wrap this up. So we'll start with you, Gull. Tell us about Isengard.
Yeah. So Isengard Proudfoot, 37 years young. I'm a bounder of East Farthing. So the bounders of the Shire, I saw the outbound guards in the sense that they keep an eye out for, trespassers and unshire-like behavior. And Isengard in particular is keeping an eye on the Bree side of things. He obviously has hobbit sense, so he's a very wise chap. He's warden, so he's his shadow path is Path of Despair, which I suppose checks out because he doesn't enjoy, spend much time in the frivolities of the Shire of Hobbiton and all that, because he's more keeping an eye on the rough areas out east with those dirty Bree folk and all the nasty rumours of what's going on. Favoured in stealth awareness and insight, so his whole shebang basically is it's wardeny stuff up the wazoo. He is eager, so he's filled with excitement and impatience when an endeavour piques his interest. He's inquisitive, so he's a curious nature, it's easily aroused. But on the positive side of this, he's often he's not easily deceived by appearances, because he is a warden, he keeps an eye out for suspicious folks. And he also has a lot of shadow lore, so this is one of the things that he often hears about is obviously the rumours from things out in the eastwards. So he's aware of the enemy and, the hidden thread unifying most of the malicious, dark, and terrible things in Middle-earth. He has a fell bow, which I didn't realize means that it can't break, so that's sweet. And is a very hardy chap. So, yep, he is very high endurance, good with bows, and just generally good at being sneaky and suspicious of people, not behaving suspiciously. Although maybe he does have good riddle skill as well. He's got soft boots, so he limits his noise outdoors because he is an outdoorsman, as it were. He also has a nice lotion to help with healing, which I figured is appropriate for all the nasty sprained ankles that he probably gets from the old forest. He's not nice. He hasn't got a proudfoot. And also he's got a pony called Barleycorn.
Which is excellent. Fantastic. All right. Well, that is Isengard Proudfoot. And then next is Goblins and Androids with Otar.
Yes. Uttar, as we say in Norwegian.
Otar? All right.
Yeah. Son of Ragnar. He's a barding and a captain. Somewhat pretends maybe to be more unwilling captain than actually secretly enjoys. He's stout-hearted, so he rules valor with favored. That's the barding cultural blessing.
Yeah. Which is really good.
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully, he's a good hunter, and he's good persuading people and lifting people up, their spirits, and also knows a thing or two about battle. He has a somewhat tamed raven flying around him that usually helps in hunting stuff, but he kind of feels that he is trying to tell him something.
That is also a really cool lore tie-in to the Bardings, and that's very cool. They have that connection with the birds. That's really cool.
That's basically he's pretty decent with the bow and swords. So I've been trying to be like a little bit of an all-rounder to see how that works.
Yep, I can see that. You've got really good armor, but not the best armor, right? You've got a bow and a sword, but not the best. You're right, stuff like that. So cool. It looks really good. All right,
and he's a confident man.
Right, and I also like too that the shadow path of the captain is that lure of power, and so I like that, like you said, he's kind of I am a hestant leader, but secretly I actually really want to be in charge and have that power. So it's really nice to have that sort of allure kind of growing to you, because again, I think characters in the One Ring are more reasonable to kind of connect with people like Boromir. Right, rather than Aragorn, who is kind of the Mary Sue, type character, is oh, I'm perfect and I'm also perfect. Whereas it's more about characters like Boromir or Denethor or Faramir, these characters that kind of have these, or even Theoden, right? Characters who you see both sides of the character's growth. All right, next is Grom.
Oh, Grom is a hardy dwarf. Works well with the axes. Very heavily armored. Good at traveling and keeping an eye out. His calling is treasure hunter. So I think what happened here is something was stolen from his family, some kind of heirlooms, and he's gone out trying to recover these, but in the process he's started taking likings to, maybe taking things that aren't necessarily his as well. And then, I guess that's about it. He's got, a big, mighty, a belt that keeps, helps him lift. And, he's got a good travel pack, in a reinforced shield.
Yeah. So again, this is the cool thing where it's like you have a dwarf and they're basically the rogue class. He's got you've got three scan, and you've got burglar. But also you have 5 dice of armor, you have a 17 parries, you have 3 dots and axes, you have a long hafted axe, it's just like you kind of have all those others.
Yeah, he's very proud, but he's also wary of people's intentions.
Very cool, very cool. Yes. And obviously dwarves normally have kind of a poor parry, but because of that reinforced shield, you actually have a pretty decent parry at 17. All right, next is Idraniel.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to be playing an elf champion. I'm pretty sure female at this point.
Sweet.
Who has a kind of like, she's been part of like a tenured campaign against some adversarial force. I'm hoping we can define it in the card system.
We will absolutely do it. Yep.
I want her to have a nemesis essentially that she's been fighting against in the area, and it caused her to lose her arm.
Yep.
Tying her into the world, I feel like her parents are probably like really insisting that she comes with them across the sea, especially now that she's wounded. They just want her to like kind of give up the fight, but she is maybe a bit obsessed with the idea of this like ridding. She has a spear, which I intend to probably throw in the first round of combat with her free volley, and then a grievous dagger. She's got pretty high parry score and leather armor. She has awe, athletics, and song as her like elven birthrights. And then she's got some stealth and travel. I imagine her as like kind of like typically like if she were on her own, she'd be like kind of a lone operative fighting against orc or warg forces. But for reasons yet told to us by Gandalf, we are working together.
So this is a great time to tell our audience as well as you. So the deal with elves is any skill that you have at least 1 rank in. So whether that's a weapon or a skill, you assemble your dice pool, and if you want to, you can spend a point of hope and basically set the D12 to the Gandalf rune. You still roll the D6s because you might want to get those extra bonus 6s. And so obviously a Gandalf rune is an automatic success. But for an elf, it's not just an automatic success. It's a magical success. That means that it's literally capable of more than is humanly possible, right? Hey, kid, I'm going to sing to these people and, lift their spirits. A normal person could do that. Elf could say, hey, I'm going to sing to these animals and calm them down and have them, I don't know, let us ride them or something like that. And I might say that is not possible unless you generate a magical success. An elf can just do that. They can just generate magic successes. Other characters can eventually acquire this. Dwarves can learn ancient Khuzdul spells of darkness. Characters can acquire ancient secrets and lores. I think scholars can do that. They're magic items. Like a Cloak of Elvenkind might be able to allow you to get a magical success for stealth. Where you're like, hey, I'm going to make a stealth roll in the middle of this open field, and it's like, well, that seems impossible unless you had a magic success. So elves are very powerful in that way. Secondly, and we can talk about this offline, Soul Pack. I would love, and we can again talk to. I would love to start you with a flaw, right? Because you're missing an arm, and figure out some other way to give you an additional benefit because of that, due to your experience. Maybe another distinctive feature, or maybe some extra experience that maybe you've had, because it sounds like your character's been sort of fighting the fight for a while. But in return, you'll have a flaw. And the way flaws work is, if I, the GM, the lore master, kind of determine that flaw might harm you or be a problem, you roll with disadvantage on the D12s. So because of your, handedness, if it's like a rock scrambling up a rocky face, I might be like, oh, your flaw comes in and, because you're missing a hand or whatever, missing an arm. Sure. That's entirely up to you. And then obviously give you something to kind of balance that out and counterbalance that.
I did, knowing that the elf could like burn hope to auto succeed on anything specifically what they're trained in. with a
Yep.
couple of my experience. I just kind of like threw 1
Yep.
points into skill.
And that I
Wrote in
noticed
it
that.
out, but
Yeah, I know. No. Number one, it's a little meta, but number two, I appreciate it. And number three, I also think it kind of reflects the fact that like elves have, they've been around, like they kind of just are decent and good at everything. But yes, that is a good idea. Now, of course, the downside of being an elf is that during fellowship phases, you guys can heal 1, 2, or 3 points of shadow, depending on how successful you were and how much the enemy has been drawn back. Elves do not easily lift the burdens from their heart. They only ever recover a single point of shadow. So, even during Yule, Christmas time, when everybody else can heavily remove their shadow, elves still only recover, I think, their heart rating in shadow. So it's very difficult for elves to remove their shadow. And so elves can often become, very burdened by the weariness of the world. That's the exchange for them being basically OP superheroes. Which is why, again, if you're playing a one-shot, play an elf. All right, last but not least, we have Jackal, who is playing Alfred.
Sure. So I rolled surnames, and I rolled a 26 out of 26, which is wayward,
Okay.
which I think is funny. So, Alfred is an old man. I like to think that people call him Wayward Alfred instead of Alfred Wayward.
Yes, nice.
He just kind of roams and wanders.
Maybe a little bit of a reputation as like a kook.
Yes. He's pretty skilled in the lore and the riddling, because scholars have rhymes of lore distinctive feature as well.
Somebody took mastery, because I see 5 check marks.
I did, yes. I took the mastery as virtue. Just added, because we had joked about him like being kind of with the pipe weed with Gandalf. Maybe that's how they know each other.
Yeah.
So his equipment gear, one of them is an Enhearten herb, and then the other is a healing herb. So maybe he's just some sort of alchemist, kind of wandering the countryside type guy.
Very cool.
I went for basically the lowest load stuff because I'm an old man and I have a strength of 2. I took a cunning make leather shirt. So it's a very cozy. It's just the most comfortable clothes that he's found. He's big on coziness.
Nice.
And it's just a knower of things and riddles and lore, and I'm intrigued as to
For sure. So in this case, I don't know if does anybody else have a 7? I think you're like the most, extreme. I think you're the most extreme character. But yeah, so you have a 7 wits, so your TN is 13. You have 3 ranks in lore, and it's favored. So you're rolling 2d12, take high, plus 3d6, and you have to beat a 13. So yeah, that's about as strong into lore as you could possibly get. So that's pretty cool. Awesome. Well, we ended up with a really cool, diverse party, which is really cool. I don't think there's any doubles. I think we have a dwarf, a hobbit, an elf, a halfling. We have 2 humans, one from Dale, one from Bree. I think we have everything but a Numenorian, whatever they're called, a Ranger of the North. And then I think we have every calling except we do not have a messenger. We don't have a messenger. Okay, cool. And again, we're going to do offline. We're going to do the backstory cards so that when we come back for our first game, these characters will have maybe a little bit more defined about them, and we can kind of figure out who, Idraniel's sort of foe is. I like that. That stuff's great because that's exactly why you do backstory cards, is so that you can have stuff about it. Because again, there are a number of published adventures that they have written for this system, and when I can and use them, I will. I have them all, and Free League was nice enough to send us all the PDFs for free. So it's nice to have maps and cool little gimmicks and gizmos that I can show not only them but you at home. But of course, you know me, like play to find out, draw maps, leave blanks. So if if this campaign takes us on a quest for vengeance against some orc warlord or something like that, that's awesome, and that's what we're going to do. So we'll play to find out and play and find out together. Patrons are great in the One Ring because they can give the GM this sort of easy way to sort of push the players in a certain direction. But there's also a big element of this of eventually being like, hey, we have things that we want to do, and we're going to use our fellowship phase to learn about something or go after something. So while the patrons can push adventures onto you and threats will involve, again, it could also totally be, you guys are still adventurers. This isn't like the Lord of the Rings, like where like Aragorn and Boromir are going to be like, oh, we should go loot and get magic items. It's more like, right? Like your characters aren't like caught up in this big existential quest to save the world, right? You're there to do good, and your people, you're part of the free peoples of the West. But at the end of the day, you might say like, during our fellowship phase, like, I want to find an ancient cache of ancient swords from Gondolin, and I want to, find the spear of the Prince of Dol Amroth and recover it. And then cool, we'll make that into an adventure. You guys will go on that adventure, acquire a cool magic item, and get that stuff. Because it's not like D&D where magic items rain from the sky, but they're there and they're cool, and they can be really powerful and fun. And especially even like the magical items can not only give you a benefit, but again, they allow basically they allow that skill to become a magical success. So basically you can spend a point of hope and get a magical success. So, that could be really, really cool and powerful for players. So they're really cool, very powerful, but something that you guys might care about. Or you might say, we want to go take out this enemy or whatever. So you're still going to see some of the stuff that I've, incorporated from other games, things like threats and fronts and clocks, as the players' decisions influence the game. All right, boys and girls, children of all ages. That was awesome. You guys did great. Again, if you guys have any questions in the Patreon or on YouTube, you can leave a comment here. You guys, I'll be talking to you guys in Discord. And if you guys have any, follow-up questions, or if I go over thing, I'll make sure all the, T's are crossed and I's are dotted. But other than that, I think we're set.
Awesome.
Cool.
Sounds good. Great work, everybody.
Yeah.
All right.
Good game. Excited for the campaign, guys.
I am going to stop OBS.